New York Jets may have gotten the biggest steal of the entire 2022 NFL Draft when they traded up for Florida State defensive end Jermaine Johnson II, who is shockingly still available at 26th overall. Johnson is a long, strong, explosive edge rusher capable of winning from multiple alignments in both the run and pass games. His combination of power, quickness, technique, and instincts make him a nightmare for opposing offensive linemen to handle. Johnson can beat them with speed, hand use, agility, or raw strength, and his opponents never know which to worry about until it's too late. The Jets have been starving for a true threat off the edge ever since the days of John Abraham in the early 2000s, but with Jermaine Johnson now in town and Robert Saleh's exemplary track record of developing pass rushers, that famine is sure to become a feast sooner rather than later. To showcase Jermaine Johnson's wide variety of talents, we have 14 clips across 5 different games, some in the run and some in the pass. We're going to go through every aspect of his game, piece by piece, from his strength to his quickness, to his power, to everything in between, break down what makes Jermaine Johnson such a talented player and such a great fit for Robert Saleh's defense as a whole. Starting off here against Notre Dame, we're going to start off with the run game and start off with Jermaine's strength at the point of attack. In these first couple of clips, like I said, we have a play against Notre Dame here. Jermaine Johnson is lined up as a 7 technique down over the right tackle. We're going to have a quick little motion at the start to get out of this bunch set from Notre Dame. They're going to motion this tight end over. Tight end is going to then line up on the line, and this is going to be an inside zone on 3rd and 2 for Notre Dame. Jermaine Johnson's going to turn this into a 4th and 1. We'll watch the play at full speed. Gets his team off the field on 3rd down. Splits a double team, gets in the backfield, makes a tackle for a 1-yard gain. Excellent. We'll watch go through slowly. Before the motion, we have Jermaine here in a 3-point stance, as if he is pass rushing, ready to get upfield. And after the motion comes over, we see him pick his foot up, take his hand off the ground, transition to a 2-point stance, widen his base. He's now more expecting run. He's ready to play the run. This is an important part with Jermaine Johnson overall, and we'll get into this later when we get to his pass rushing. But in Florida State's defense, he is very much asked to play contain and play the run almost to a fault, to where it really does not give him as many opportunities to get after quarterbacks as some of the other top pass rushers in this class had, and this is a good example here. It's 3rd and 2, tight end comes over, Jermaine shifts his weight, gets on two feet, and gets out of his 3-point stance. He's widening his base, he's bracing to take on this run play. Reading the outside zone coming from Notre Dame, we get a handful of double teams on the front side, on the interior here, and we have some read action on the backside to freeze this other defensive end in place. We have Jermaine on the front side of the play going against the right tackle and the tight end. He's going to be able to, with that wide base, stack on the tackle. Tight end is trying to come from the other side and down block and pin Jermaine to the inside here, prevent him from being able to get to the outside edge, or wash him down the line of scrimmage and give a lane for the running back to go behind him. But Jermaine is so strong and so stout that he's able to take on this double team despite the contact from both players, turns himself inside, pushes back on the right tackle, gets his outside arm inside of the right tackle's chest, uses his hands to keep the right tackle's hands off of him, and he's free. No problem. Take on the contact. Now we're free. Squeeze down the line. Eyes on the running back. Go up. Make a tackle. 3rd and 2. Now it's 4th and 1. Get Florida State's defense off the field, make a play in the run game, use your strength, take on a double team. Can't ask for much more than this out of Jermaine Johnson. Next play in the run game, this time against Clemson. We have a pistol set from Clemson from 11 personnel, meaning 3 receivers and 1 tight end. We have Jermaine Johnson down at the bottom over the right tackle again, this time in a 6-eye technique, so slightly inside of where the tight end would be lined up if he were in line. So 6-eye technique from Jermaine. Over this right tackle, we're going to get a split zone from Clemson, where we're going to have the offensive line blocking as if it were inside zone to the front side, and this tight end who's in a wing set is going to work back across the grain as a split blocker. We're also going to get a little jet motion from this slot receiver here. That's hoping to freeze Florida State's defense, make them keep their eyes to the backside where the ball isn't going. In reality, it's going to the running back on the split zone to the front side. So we'll watch everything at full speed first. Again, Jermaine down at the bottom in that 6-eye. Get in, stack on the right tackle. Use your length, get off. make the grab, let your defense come up and rally. Can't ask for much more than that. Again, we'll watch from the end zone, slow things down. We have 6-eye from Jermaine, over right tackle here. Motion comes over from the slot receiver, hoping to pull some of these defenders to the backside. In reality, it is a split zone on the front side. And we have Jermaine getting on the block here, takes on the right tackle, extends, uses his great 34-inch arm length again, keep himself free, keep blockers' hands and arms out of his chest, and he's got his eyes on the ball. He's reading in case the running back is going to keep, if the ball went to the sweep, if it's a play action and the quarterback's got it. He's always got his eyes on the ball, and that's a really important aspect of his game. It helps him be aware, helps him track down ball carriers to the edge, not get out of position. Very overall player, very smart player, and no better than this when it comes to strength. When it comes to stacking and shedding, get your hands inside, lock out, use your length. Running back is going to have a really poor decision here. There is a cutback lane to the inside that he could take. Instead, the running back goes to the outside as a poor decision, but Jermaine's going to capitalize on that poor decision. Again, using his length, staying stacked, keeping himself free. Now the running back starts to go to the edge and get outside. Again, use that length, disengage, get off and make the tackle. Let your other defenders come up and rally. Tackle for loss for Florida State, no problem whatsoever. So when it comes to taking on blocks, when it comes to getting off blocks, playing the edge, playing contain, being a force in the run game, Jermaine Johnson can do it from the inside. He can do it from the outside. Power, no problem whatsoever. Next, we're going to talk about his quicks and how that helps him in the run game as well. First play of Jermaine Johnson against NC State here. This is going to come against 6th overall pick, Ikem Ekwonu of the Carolina Panthers. The NC State game was a really good game for Jermaine overall. We have a handful of clips from that game in this review. Not so much on the stat sheet, but the film definitely tells a different story, and we'll make sure we show that off. First off here, we have something that does show up on the stat sheet. That's going to be a tackle for loss, using a swim move over Ekwonu to get a tackle on inside zone. So again, we'll watch Jermaine here. Defensive end at the top, lined up in a 5 technique at the start. We're going to get a slight shift from the running back. It's going to move over to the other side. That's going to cause Jermaine to shift inside slightly to a 4-eye technique. Line shifts down to make up for the different alignments with the running back and the potential run plays. And then we have Jermaine going right over top of Ekwonu, swims him, gets in the backfield, tackle for loss. Easy. Looking real easy against the 6th overall pick here with Jermaine Johnson, who went all the way down at 26th. Getting some slight work on Ekwonu. So let's back this up. Let's slow it down. Let's break it down. First things first, we got Jermaine in this 5 technique here over Ekwonu. Running back is going to motion over, and that is going to cause Jermaine to shift to the inside. There's the motion from the running back. Slight shift over. Florida State realigns their defensive line. Now, Jermaine is very smart, and he can read that this is going to be an inside zone. He knows on an inside zone that Ekwonu is going to be trying to down block him, pin him inside, keep him from getting to the edge, and give the open edge to the running back if he were to take it. He's going to be giving himself a disadvantage by coming inside after this shift. He knows that he's at a disadvantage after he had to shift inside. So instead of trying to fight through a powerful man like Ekwonu or trying to overpower him where he expects you to be, Jermaine Johnson smartly gets to the inside and at the snap sets up Ekwonu with a little bit of an outside step, and there's the Ole right over top of him. Expects him to go to the inside, and Jermaine is quick enough to jump over to the other gap, swim over top of him, regain his balance, and now there it is, the position again. Squared, eyes on the ball, soon as the running back takes the handoff. Quarterback is just now pulling it out at the mesh point, and Jermaine Johnson's already past Ikem Ekwonu, ready to make a tackle. Get in. 91 also does a good job on the center, walks back the center, takes away any lanes for the running back. Jermaine gets in, cleans it up, tackle for loss for Florida State. Again, easy. Real easy for Jermaine Johnson against a guy that went the 6th overall pick in the NFL draft at offensive tackle. This is pretty dang good. This looks pretty dang good to me. First offensive tackle in the NFL draft taken this past year, and Jermaine Johnson's swimming him like it's nothing. We've seen Jermaine win with power. We've also seen him win with quickness. Now let's see him win with some speed and explosion and get some tackles for loss in the run game that way as well. So we got a play here against Miami. Jermaine is going to be lined up as a 6 technique over the right tackle here. Miami is going to be running a jet sweep pop pass from this receiver down at the bottom. Going to come across the grain, catch it on a little pop pass, link out to the front. We have a tight end lined up in the backfield as a running back that's going to act as a lead blocker to the edge. We have another tight end here outside of the right tackle. It's going to be getting upfield. 2 receivers up top blocking as well. Jermaine is going to be left unblocked here. Miami is going to intentionally leave him unblocked. They are hoping that this receiver will get enough momentum coming across on the motion that once he catches the pop pass and goes to the edge, Jermaine will be flat-footed, and this receiver will be able to outrun him to the corner, making it okay to leave Jermaine Johnson unblocked. Miami is going to see that they are sorely mistaken in that idea, and that Jermaine is going to come unblocked, get into the backfield, see the sweep, and chase it down for a huge tackle for loss for the Seminoles. Well, let's back things up, and we can see again, blocking scheme from Miami at the snap. Ball comes out, there's the pop pass, and we have Jermaine unblocked. We have the right tackle getting up to a linebacker. We have the tight end getting up to a linebacker. This slot receiver is coming down to block down on this linebacker here. And we have Jermaine Johnson unblocked. There's the tight end that was in the backfield. He's coming up to act as a lead blocker. And Jermaine sees the pop pass coming. Again, great eyes. Always keeps his eyes on the ball. Reads it and knows he's got to chase down, get to that edge as fast as he can. Easy. Real easy. We'll go to the end zone angle. We'll watch again. Tight end in the backfield, number 80 as the lead blocker. Motion comes over, and Jermaine's got his eyes on the ball. He knows he's unblocked. Sees the pop pass coming. Never takes his eyes off the ball or the receiver, and he starts knowing he's got a haul butt, and that's exactly what he does. Chases down this receiver to the edge, wraps him up, brings him down. Easy. Again, it looks real easy for Jermaine Johnson to be doing this. Doesn't look like it's costing him a lot of effort or a lot of strenuous work or anything. He's just able to chase people down with raw speed and explosion because he's that athletic. For the Jets in particular, Jets fans in particular that have watched a certain quarterback in Buffalo run circles around their defense for the last couple of years, break sacks, get to the edge, run away from their defensive ends, and run away from contain, Jets fans should be very, very happy because that's not going to happen for much longer with Jermaine Johnson in town. Josh Allen's got to watch his back because this guy's going to be coming for him full speed. Last clip from the run game here. This is going to come again against Notre Dame. And again, a great example of Jermaine Johnson's awareness. We've seen his strength, we've seen his speed, we've seen his explosion, we've seen his quickness, but it's his eyes and his brain that really set him apart for me with everything that he does. It looks like he's just a wild animal going full force on every snap, and for a lot of the time he is, but there is always a method to the madness. Everything is calculated and purposeful, and he's a very smart player on top of his natural talent. So we'll see that again here against Notre Dame. This is going to be a very similar play to the one we watched against Miami. Instead of the receiver taking the sweep, however, it is going to be an inside zone read to the running back and the quarterback. There's the little slot motion. Running back takes the ball, and Jermaine Johnson going to be up here at the top of the screen, going to be unblocked again. This time he's not going to fall for the sweep motion. He's going to keep his eye on the ball like he did in the play before, see where it is, track the running back, come down, squeeze, and make a tackle for a short gain. 2 yards at max. We'll go to the end zone angle. We'll see even better. We have Jermaine here as a 6 technique over this tight end. We have 2 tight ends to the right of the defense, 2 receivers that are stacked off the screen to the left. Slot receiver comes in motion, and Jermaine is unblocked again. We have these 2 tight ends are going to be bluffing as lead blockers for the sweep, trying to pull some defenders backside. When they see blockers leaking out, that's going to give them even more of a reason to commit to this potential sweep. Jermaine doesn't fall for it. Rest of the offensive line is running inside zone to the front side, and the quarterback is reading Jermaine Johnson as if it were a read option. Sees that Jermaine stays backside. He does not charge with the sweep. Hands the ball off to the running back. 0 on Florida State does a good job taking away that A-gap, pushing the blocker back. That forces a cutback, and Jermaine is able to squeeze down, make the tackle on the running back. Short gain again. He can win with power, he can win with speed, he can win with length, he can win with quickness, and he can win with his brain on top of it all in the run game just as much as the pass game. This guy is incredibly talented in all aspects of the game, and just as good as he is in run defense, I promise you his pass rush is even more impressive. We're going to get into that next. We've seen what Jermaine Johnson can do in the run game. Now let's take a look at what he can do as a pass rusher. And when we're talking about Jermaine Johnson's pass rush, it's important to understand the context around what he was asked to do in his defense and how that really affected his numbers and his opportunities to get after quarterbacks and rack up sacks. So we're going to show that off here with this first clip against Florida. Jermaine Johnson is down in a wide 9 stance at the bottom defensive end here, going up against this right tackle. And in Jermaine Johnson's defense, like I said in the very first clip, he is asked to play contain against the run almost to a fault, almost to a point, or in fact, very much to a point where it takes away his opportunities to rush. We're going to see that here. Full speed first. We'll watch Jermaine Johnson. He's going to get an absolutely great jump off this snap, have a clean lane to the corner. However, Florida is going to be running a play action. And since he's going to have the running back covering where the ball is, he's going to stop his rush in the middle of his jump, get his arms out and stack on the right tackle, getting ready to play a potential run. And once he sees the quarterback keep the ball, he's going to transition back as a pass rusher, go after the quarterback and almost get in on him, even though the quarterback ends up being able to throw it away. Even still, this is exactly what I've been talking about for months with Jermaine Johnson when I say the analytics aren't understanding what they're looking at. And this is a perfect example. Again, let's go slow motion. We'll really show it off. Jermaine Johnson's going to be here as a wide 9 going against this right tackle. He's going to get a great jump off the snap, times the snap perfectly right there, and he is firing off the ball. This right tackle has got a ton of ground to have to make up to get to this corner. Jermaine can just come full speed if he wants, use his speed, use his strength, use his quickness and his length, dip under that tackle, flatten down, and get a sack on this quarterback. However, like I said, it's a play action from Florida. And Jermaine, always keeping his eyes on the ball, sees that it's a play action. So he unselfishly takes a sack away from himself. This would be a clear sack. With his jump off the snap, with his angle, with how far out wide he is and his ability to flatten and bend at the top of his rush, all he has to do is fire off to this corner, round it out, and he's going to have a clean sack on this quarterback. But he stops. He stops in the middle of his rush, sees the potential run, gets on the tackle, extends his arms, gets ready to stack, and play the run. He wouldn't do that unless his defense asked him to do that on every single snap. And we've seen on other reps, he'll adjust his stance depending on the alignment. If it seems like the run is more likely, he's going to adjust and get into a 2-point stance. It is very important for Florida State to play contain and trust their defensive ends to not give up the edge. So Jermaine is doing exactly what his coaches have taught him. He's stacking, he's playing contain in case the running back were to try and cut back. If it were to be a quarterback, keep to the other side. Jermaine Johnson has to be on this edge, ready to go and ready to stack and shed on this tackle. Once he sees that the quarterback has kept the ball and that it is no longer a potential run play and that it was indeed a play action, now he transitions back to rushing. So we see inside, hands get inside of the chest of the right tackle, and he's just going to toss him out of the way. Just toss him out of the way. Easy. Dips and bends as he's tossing. Right there we can see kicks his legs out, starts dipping his shoulders to get lower, flatten down towards this quarterback, uses his inside arm again. Very smart of Jermaine. He always does this. Once he gets free, he uses his inside or outside arm, whichever is closer to the blocker, to keep himself free throughout and avoid getting any recovery from the right tackle. Now we're coming for speed, and he almost gets in. Almost. It's really hard to go and get in on the quarterback when you're having to fire off the ball at full speed, stop yourself in the middle of a rush. There's the jump, there's the stop, now we're transitioning back to rushing. That's really difficult to get a sack when you're having to come off as fast as you can, slow yourself down, and then transition back to rushing the quarterback. That is not easy to do. Jermaine Johnson almost gets in anyway, and the reason I'm so excited for him with the New York Jets, he's not going to have to do this anymore. Robert Saleh's defense doesn't work this way. Robert Saleh's defense doesn't ask their defensive ends to play contain religiously on every single potential opportunity of a run play. They're pinning their ears back, and they're getting after quarterbacks on every single snap. It's quite literally the opposite. Robert Saleh's defense very much cares very little about contain and doesn't ask their defensive ends to play it nearly to the capacity Florida State does. Jermaine's just going to get to go on every single snap. He's not going to have to stop his momentum. He's not going to have to take away sacks from himself. He's going to get to use his athleticism and his gifts to their best ability, and I cannot wait to watch it. Another play against Florida here. This is going to be Jermaine Johnson's power in his pass rush and how effective he can be when he gets under his pads and puts all of his strength into a move, tries to go through a tackle. It's real easy for him. First things first, I want to talk about how Jermaine pass rushes. I had mentioned that in the clip earlier when discussing what his defense asked of him, but this is more about the style of player that he is, how he executes his pass rush, and how that affects the moves he's capable of pulling off, as well as how effective it can make him against offensive tackles. Jermaine Johnson does what's called rushing to a spot. When a defensive end rushes to a spot, what it means is they have a desired landmark X amount of yards back into the backfield, and if the offensive tackle attempting to block them keeps pace to that spot, that defensive end is not going to try and continue to get further outside or continue to get further deep. They're going to transition at that point to a counter move, whether it be a speed to power like a bull rush or an inside counter or a swim or something along those lines. If they don't get the corner early after about their third step or so, they're not going to continue to try and just get the corner and get locked up. In order to play that way as a pass rusher, one, you got to have the explosion to win the corner and threaten it to start with, but two, you got to have the strength and the smarts to be able to transition on a fly, convert your rush to speed to power, see when the lanes are open for you to take advantage and counter back inside, or know when you're not going to get the edge, and Jermaine Johnson does that just as good as anybody else in this draft class. So we'll see here, lined up over the right tackle in a wide 9 stance. We're going to get a power rush after his speed is matched to the corner, transitions to a stutter bull, runs through the right tackle, fights through a holding call, and ends up getting a sack regardless. So we'll see on the end zone angle again. Jermaine in the wide 9 here going against this right tackle. We're going to see off the snap. He's going to take about 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. On his third step, he sees that the right tackle has kept pace with him, that there is very little chance that Jermaine is going to be able to get a good corner to the edge. So rather than trying to continue to go outside, he's going to transition to a power move. He's going to convert this to a stutter bull rush, and we'll see stutter the feet, close the ground on the tackle, get the tackle to slow their feet down, get in the chest, and bowl right through him. And like I said earlier, what I love about Jermaine Johnson, everything is purposeful and everything is calculated. This is not just a simple, oh, I got stopped to the corner, now I have to bull rush. He's got a plan behind that too. We're going to see Jermaine Johnson smartly does what's called attacking half a man. When you are a pass rusher going against a tackle, specifically trying to use a power move, it's a lot more difficult to brace on either shoulder and try and push this tackle straight back towards the quarterback than it is to focus all of your power on one side of their body and get them to try and turn at an angle. You get to what's called opening the gate on the tackle, and that's what Jermaine does here. Uses his power and uses his length, attacks that outside shoulder. He's not getting dead in the middle of the center of gravity of this tackle. He's attacking the outside shoulder, giving himself an easier angle. Now we can see numbers from this offensive tackle. He's turned significantly more to the inside, gives Jermaine Johnson a path to get to the quarterback. And we'll see before the contact, we can see the front of his numbers. There's the contact on the shoulder. He's almost completely turned around. That's exactly what you want to see as a pass rusher. It's a lot more efficient. It's a lot faster. It's a lot easier. And it requires a lot less brute strength. You're making things harder for yourself as a defensive end when you're trying to bull rush and you're trying to go straight through somebody. Jermaine Johnson is smart. He's able to attack half a man, turn the gate. Now there's the transition to the bend. Again, always great at flattening, always great at transitioning in the middle of his rushes to flattening, not waiting until they're over. As he's disengaging, we see that outside leg right there start to kick out. Legs getting wider, dropping those hips, dropping that center of gravity, using his ankle bend and his flexibility to turn this corner. And then like before, 34-inch arm length showing up over and over. We use our inside arm to keep free of this tackle. We use the outside arm to go and bring down this quarterback. Fight through the play. Holding gets called, but it's going to get declined because this is a sack for Florida State. Didn't stop him. So you need Jermaine to just go through somebody. You need him to just run through somebody's face and go and get the quarterback. No problem. He's got you. Back to the Clemson game, and this is a great example of Jermaine Johnson shining when the lights are brightest and when the pressure is on. So we got Jermaine here. It's going to be in a 7 technique over the right tackle. Clemson is going to be in an 11 personnel set. It's kind of spread out. We're going to have this tight end motion across. We'll see after the motion. We're going to get one-on-one with Jermaine with that right tackle. Now, the important part of this is Florida State. This is at the end of the game. They are down 17-13 at this point. There is 7 minutes and 46 seconds left in the fourth quarter, and it is 3rd and 6 from the Clemson 18-yard line. This is when your star players have to go out and make plays. This is when the guys that are the leaders of your team have to go make the biggest plays in the biggest moments, put the team on their back, and go out and get victories. Well, Jermaine Johnson does everything he can to make that happen here. He's going to pull off a push-pull move on this right tackle that is absolutely teaching tape, get into the backfield, swat the ball out of the quarterback's hands, pick it up, run it into the end zone, and give Florida State a late lead in the fourth quarter. You can't ask for much more than that out of your star players. We'll go to the end zone angle. We'll see it again in slow motion. We saw last play Jermaine Johnson pull off the stutter bull rush after his speed to the corner didn't got matched. So we'll see again here. Very similar. 1, 2, 3rd step. Tackle is decently keeping pace. Not an immediate win to the corner for Jermaine, but we can see this tackle is over his toes. He's off balance. He is very much in a position to be manipulated, and Jermaine knows that. So like before we saw with the stutter bull, he's going to stutter his feet, flashes his hands up, make this tackle think that that stutter bull rush is coming. That's what Jermaine wants. He's trying to bait this tackle into bracing for contact, get him to flash his hands, get him to stop his feet, and get him off balance. We see the hand flash there for Jermaine, brings the hands up, immediately goes on, extends. Now we have the extension here. Let the tackle brace for the contact. Jermaine's going to get on that outside shoulder. This tackle thinks he won, and that's exactly what Jermaine wants. This tackle thinks that he's got inside of Jermaine's chest, that he's bracing for the power, that he's going to be able to anchor, get a hand on him and slow him down, and Jermaine Johnson has him hanging out over his toes, leaning too far off balance, and that's exactly what he wants. Once he gets that extension, now here comes the pull. Right there. So we latch on, we extend, there's the push, and the pull. Right tackle is too far out over his toes off balance, and as always with Jermaine, transitions to flattening as he's clearing, as he is pulling this blocker past him, as he is pulling him to the ground. He starts dipping his shoulder. He starts kicking his legs out wider. We can see right there, crossing his legs to the inside, turning that corner, using his ankle bend to flatten down. And once he's free, right here, knows the game situation. He could have every opportunity he wants to come full speed into this quarterback's ribcage and knock him into the frickin' dirt. But he knows the game situation. He knows his team is down. He knows they need a big play. He knows it's the end of the game. So he goes for the swat. Never once does Jermaine Johnson go for this knockout sack. He is going for the ball from the very, very beginning. Gets off the block, swats the ball, takes a lucky Florida State hop backwards. Jermaine's able to pick it up, run it into the end zone, and that's a touchdown for FSU. And watch the Clemson cheerleaders behind him stone-faced. That's just hilarious. That's one of the funniest things I've seen on tape all year, is watching the Clemson cheerleaders have to stand there while Jermaine Johnson's running into the end zone, giving his team a late lead in their stadium. You want your leaders to make plays when the lights shine brightest? Well, Jermaine Johnson is definitely able to do that when the lights are the brightest, when times are tough, when you need your leaders to make plays. Jermaine Johnson's going to make a play. Another clip from the Miami game. Again, we have Jermaine Johnson down at the bottom in a wide 9 going against this right tackle. We got an 11 personnel set from Miami, and this is going to be an absolutely gorgeous double swipe move from Jermaine Johnson that's going to result in the sack. I have never seen another defensive end pull off a double swipe move that spins a tackle 360 degrees, but Jermaine does it here. And it's pretty effective for him because it ends up in a sack fumble. Unfortunately, Florida State isn't able to recover it, but the sheer fact that Jermaine Johnson is not trying to use a real power move here. A double swipe is definitely more of a crafty move, and in this particular instance, it's more about giving him a counter to the inside. However, he's just so strong, and he gets this tackle so good that he's able to spin him completely around and able to go to the outside anyway. We'll see from the end zone angle how even more impressive it is that Jermaine Johnson is trying to be smart here. He is trying to do a very, very smart thing, and that is counter to the inside when it's left wide open. So again, we have that wide 9 alignment. off the snap. See here we have 1, 2, third step. Tackle is with him, and he sees this running back staying in pass protection, is leaking to the outside to potentially chip him to the edge if he were to get outside of this tackle. Even though this tackle has chip help outside, he is still leaving an inside lane open. That's going to give Jermaine the opportunity to counter back inside. That's what he's trying to do with this double swipe. He's trying to get on those hands, push out, and give himself a lane to counter back to the inside. However, it just works out so well for him that he's able to get under this tackle's armpit and completely spin him around. Completely and totally spin him around. Again, not trying to put all of his strength into a bull rush and knock the guy over. He's just trying to swat the hands away and give himself a lane back to the inside, but he's so strong he doesn't even have to try to throw people around like children. It's really, really impressive. We'll see again, running back going to the outside, potentially try and chip. Gets completely whiffed because he's not expecting Jermaine to be knocking this tackle that far back. Spins off the tackle's back, and once he's clear, here comes the flatten. Right there. We can see, watch his legs, watch how they kick to the outside, and he bends on his ankles. Right there, we're going to the outside, and we're using our length to get in, knock down the quarterback with one arm. Force the fumble as well. Again, would love to see Florida State recover it. But either way, sack fumble, no complaints here for Jermaine Johnson. If anyone else has any other reps of a defensive end pulling off a double swipe that spins the offensive tackle like a top, I would absolutely love to see it. But in my years of scouting and watching players and breaking down film, this is the one and only time I have ever seen this move end with this result. And it's one of the most devastating plays I saw on film all year. Last rep from the Notre Dame game, we have Jermaine Johnson here in a 6 technique over this tight end. We have a 12 personnel set from Notre Dame with these 2 tight ends. They're going to motion the wing tight end out wide there. That is going to give Jermaine an end over this tackle and over this tight end here. We're going to see Jermaine is going to start to the outside. Notice that the inside lane is open. Convert speed to power. Take on some extra help from a guard who picks him up late. Fight through it and get in for a sack. We'll go to the end zone angle. We'll see even better. Again, here's Jermaine. Head up over this tackle in a 6 technique. Off the snap, we're going to have tight end release slightly to the outside. That's going to allow Jermaine to take more of an inside path. And the left tackle here is getting depth outside to the edge, expecting Jermaine to take a wider path around this tight end. And that leaves a little bit of a gap to the inside here. We have the left guard is helping out on the 2-eye technique in a double team, using a drag hand to kind of play 2 gaps at once, keep a hand on this blocker, help out his center, and also keep eyes on this backside gap here. Jermaine comes down, gap starts to widen. We can see he's starting to slightly go back outside. He knows he wants that inside lane the whole time, but he needs to widen out this tackle just a little bit more. Sets him up, there's that outside foot, plant, and now we're countering back inside. Now, as soon as Jermaine plants that foot and goes to get to the inside, the left guard sees him coming, starts to pick him up, and then like Jermaine always does, everything is deliberate, everything is intentional, and when we take on this left guard, we're not just trying to go clean through him, we're trying to turn him. We're trying to attack this inside shoulder and give ourselves a lane to get through to the inside instead of just completely running through this double team with his strength. Plenty of strength involved, but he works smarter, not harder. Gets the guard to turn. Now we can see, clean look at his numbers. Before, slightly tilted, can't quite see the 2. Completely turned, give himself a lane. And again, we're using inside arm for Jermaine Johnson to keep himself free. Get out and use that outside arm. Finish, make a tackle on the quarterback for a sack. So you want him to win with power, he's got you. You want him to beat tackles one-on-one and run through them, he can do that. He can pick up when guards pick him up late. He can turn those into sacks too. Guy's got more strength than he knows what to do with, to be completely and totally honest. We've seen all other aspects of his game. Now it's time to get into the missing piece of the Jermaine Johnson puzzle, and that is going to be his ability to win with speed and quickness as a pass rusher. So again, we got Jermaine Johnson down here in a wide 9 over this right tackle against Miami. It's going to be the second of 3 sacks that Jermaine had in this game. The third one would have been a coverage sack later in the game. But this is going to be an absolutely gorgeous skip swipe move on this right tackle. Going to leave him in the dust, let Jermaine flatten around the corner, go in and get a sack on the quarterback. No problem whatsoever. So we'll go to the end zone angle. We'll see again just how quickly Jermaine is able to win. It's not all about power with him. It's not all about getting people off balance or countering back inside. He can win with straight quickness. He can win by setting people up and execute any way he wants. It really gives him a limitless potential, to be quite honest. He can win any way he wants to, and the tackles never know which way to worry about. So off the snap, we got 1 step, 2 step, 3rd step goes in the ground. And we're going to flash a stutter bull. We're going to stutter our feet, gain some ground on this tackle. This tackle gets a good first step. We'll watch good kick at first, and then doesn't continue to get depth. Keeps his feet slower, gets them too close to the inside. Jermaine sees this, so we're going to give a stutter. Outside foot, 1 step, 2 step off the inside. And off that inside foot, we're going to start our swipe, skip back to the outside to get outside of this tackle for a sack. Now, Jermaine is really good at doing what's called linking his hands to his feet, and that's an important tool for pass rushers. You want your movements to be fluid. You want your timing to be appropriate. And for Jermaine in particular, we'll see here, outside foot goes in to start the stutter, inside foot plants, and as that inside foot is planting and he's pushing off, he's bringing his inside arm up to start the swipe. Outside foot gets in the ground. He's playing off the outside foot. Outside arm starts the swipe. So there's the outside arm. We'll see inside arm. Plant that inside foot. Now we're bringing up the inside arm when we swipe. Timed very, very well. Allows him to clear the right tackle's hands. And now, as he always does, we're flattening the quarterback. Starts kicking his legs out. Starts getting his legs to the outside. Lowering his shoulder. Dipping his hips. And he's able to get right past this quarterback. When the quarterback is hitting the top of his drop, we'll rewind this a little bit and see. For anyone worried about Jermaine Johnson's ability to win quickly or win in under a certain amount of seconds, for any analytics people out here, I don't know how much faster you want than this. Quarterback goes through his drop. 1, 2, 3. Now we're planted. Quarterback is ready to throw at this point. Has reached the top of his drop. As soon as the quarterback is even potentially ready to throw, as earliest as he possibly could be, Jermaine Johnson's past his right tackle, got his tackle faced completely the opposite way with his back to the line of scrimmage, and Jermaine Johnson is flattening down on this quarterback. Quarterback barely even has time to hitch before Jermaine's in on him. There's a hitch. Jermaine's within 2 yards of him, has to pull that ball down. Jermaine gets in for a sack, wraps him up. Easy money again. Just seems very simple. Seems like there's not much effort going on here, and it's because Jermaine is so smart, so talented, so athletically gifted, and just so naturally just good at what he does. He doesn't usually have to put in too much effort. He can on the fly react like this. He can have his brain move at 100 miles an hour to see that this tackle didn't get enough depth, stopped his feet, has his feet too far close, doesn't have enough of a wide base, out over his toes, and he knows that he's going to have enough quickness to go to the outside. No problem. Now I'm outside. I know I have to flatten, get my legs out, bend, get down on this quarterback, go in and make the tackle. It's natural for him. Being a pass rusher is just absolutely natural for him. I can't wait to see what Robert Saleh does and what other moves he adds to his repertoire, because there is a ton of potential here. First of the last 3 clips of the breakdown, all coming against NC State. As I alluded to earlier, Jermaine had an awesome game against the Wolfpack. It may not have looked that way on the stat sheet, but on the film, it definitely flashed and really showed his potential overall. He finished with 0 sacks against NC State on the stat sheet, but we're going to see over these next 3 clips, he probably should have had 3. And that's really important. NC State and Ike Mekwonu were some of the best, if not the best, single players he went up against this past season at FSU, and Jermaine Johnson had more than a couple reps beating him like it was nothing. So we're going to see here, again, going against Mekwonu, we got Jermaine as a 6 technique, and he's going to hit Mekwonu with an outside spin that, if it wasn't for his defensive tackle knocking a guard in his way at the last second, would have been a clean sack. Quarterback's able to step up and scramble for a handful of yards, pick up a first down, but this should have been a sack. This is just bad luck. This is just bad luck for Jermaine. Again, 6 technique here over Mekwonu at left tackle. We're going to see off the snap, 1 step, 2 steps, 3rd step with his inside foot. He's planning, he's going to spin back to the outside. Knows Ekwonu wants to get his hands on early, starts to close ground to the inside to get Ekwonu to flash those hands, and then links his hands to his feet. When that inside foot plants, he's bringing his outside arm in closer to his chest, make the spin easier for him in terms of air resistance, and also give an opportunity to swat Ekwonu's hands to his inside and keep him out of his chest, keep him from catching him in the middle of his spin. Plant the foot, inside arm comes, now there's the spin. Leave him in the dirt, and as soon as he's clear, puts that inside arm, pins it against Ekwonu's back, and that gives him a point of contact to continue keeping him behind. You don't want to give the tackle an opportunity to recover, so once you're past him with the spin, now you continue to clear, use that inside arm, get on his back, give himself a point of contact to continue rounding this corner. Now we're starting to flatten. And like I said, if it's not for 91, the defensive tackle here, walking 54 back into JJ's way and throwing him into his way at the very last second, giving him an opportunity to pick him up and get just enough of him and get him out of the way, this would have been a sack. If it wasn't for 91 knocking this guy back and giving him a little bit of a momentum boost, Jermaine Johnson's probably going to flatten down, get a sack on this quarterback, and it's going to be a huge highlight reel play against the 6th overall pick at offensive tackle, and Ikem Ekwonu. Again, doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but the tape looks pretty dang good to me. If that's not an effective pass rush move, then I don't know what is. Next rep against NC State, this time against the right tackle. Jermaine is going to be a 7 technique here at the bottom of the screen as a defensive end. Like we saw last rep, we saw a spin move to the outside. This is going to be an inside spin that if it weren't for a missed holding call would have been another sack. So we'll see. Jermaine's going to set him up, slight outside, spin back to the inside, and even through the hold, he's able to turn at the top of his rush, flatten down. Real impressive fluidity and agility here to fight through the hold, spin at the top, and just look at how low and how quickly he rounds that corner. That is some really, really impressive agility and bend to be able to turn a corner that tightly and still almost get in for a sack. Gives enough time for the rest of his defensive line to come in and get home. Knocks the quarterback off his spot. Not going to be a sack for Jermaine on the stat sheet, but it really should be an assist if anything else. We'll see again on the end zone angle. We'll go through things in slow motion. Off the snap, we're going to get 2 steps to the outside. We got 1, 2 to the outside. Now we're planning with that outside foot. Raises his outside arm to get the tackle to flash his hands, make him think that some sort of swim move or swipe move is coming to the outside. Again, linking feet to his hands when the inside foot is coming up to help with the inside spin. Inside arm is coming up. He's going to catch the right tackle's hand with his inside arm right there. Point of contact, starts his spin, goes back to the inside, and there's the pin again. We can see now he's got his outside arm pinned on the offensive tackle, trying to give himself a point of contact to get free. And right there, this is a hold. This is a hold. He's got a fistful of jersey and shoulder pad. This blocker is not in a square alignment to take on this block. Jermaine is past him, and this guy is holding, and it goes uncalled. If it were not for this hold at the top of this spin, that's just another sack for Jermaine. That would have been 2 spin moves and 2 sacks against NC State from either side of the line. Both of them ended up not being sacks for various reasons. Regardless, it's a sack for Florida State and the rest of their defensive line, but Jermaine Johnson's going to get knocked on the stat sheet and is not going to have anything to show for it out of this play, but this play doesn't happen without Jermaine getting pressure, and if it wasn't for a missed holding call, it would have been a sack for him himself. Final play of the review and the final play against North Carolina State. Once again, we have Jermaine Johnson here in a 7 technique over this right tackle. He's going to hit an inside counter, a little swim move, a little arm over to get back to the inside after setting up outside. The right guard is going to get a late chip and get a little bit of a piece of him back to the inside. Jermaine's going to fight through it and again almost get a sack despite having to go through 2 blockers, despite being knocked over at the last minute. Is still able to flatten down, get to the outside, and almost get in on the quarterback, forces a bad throw out of bounds. And still, this is as close as it gets. Not going to show up on the stat sheet, not going to show up as anything in any sort of statistics, but this is a great rep from Jermaine, even though it doesn't result in a sack. Again, we got 7 technique here against the right tackle. We're going to see off the snap, 1, 2, 3 steps again. And like we saw before, setting up this tackle with what he wants the tackle to think is a stutter bull. Trying to give him that stutter, 2, 3 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4 steps of a stutter, close the ground, get the tackle to flash his hands to the inside and brace for power, and then we're going right around him. Right around him. Easy. Inside arm to the back, outside arm swims over, and he's clear. Easy. Nice and easy, really fast, quick win, goes right around him like he's not even there. Unfortunately, you got the right guard keeping eyes on, notices Jermaine coming back to the inside, using a drag hand like we saw before, helping double with the center, giving himself the opportunity to come back and help to the inside and help his tackle if need be. Gets off, goes to make contact, and as soon as Jermaine gets free, he's got to brace for this contact. Normally, when someone's coming off a move like this and they're off balance, you would expect them to get knocked on their butt and not be able to continue to rush and get after the quarterback, but Jermaine is so strong and so balanced and so fluid that he transitions from taking on this guard to flattening to the quarterback in 3 steps. I mean, this is incredible. Takes on the guard, 1, 2, outside foot plants, he's turned. We got clean look at his body there, square with the line of scrimmage, parallel with the line of scrimmage, takes on the contact, 1 step, 2 step, turn his hips and widen out his legs as he's taking on the contact, 3rd step hits the ground, he's turning and he's flattening. And he's able to get low, stay balanced, continue to dip. Look at the bend, look at the ankles, look at him swing his legs out to round that corner, stay as flat as he can, and he's charging down after this quarterback, and again, milliseconds, mere milliseconds from a sack. Not the quickest win in the world because he had to fight through 2 blockers to do it, but just the fact that he can get knocked off his path, that he can be just in the middle of executing a move, and as soon as he gets done executing that move, he's got a guy ready to knock him on his butt. He can stay up, fight through it, flatten down, show off his bend and explosion, and still almost get in for a sack. That's really impressive. I really cannot wait to see what Robert Saleh does with this guy in the future. I think it's going to be absolutely incredible. His speed, his length, his power, his explosion, his awareness, his smarts, his balance, his tenacity, everything that you could ever want from a pass rusher, this guy has, and he has it all in spades. And best of all, he's going to a defensive scheme that's not going to limit his talents anymore. He's going to a defensive scheme that's going to completely and totally let him loose. There hasn't been any time in Jermaine Johnson's long career across 3 different universities that he's really had an opportunity to just pin his ears back and go and be the type of player that his body and his athleticism really fits him to be. In New York, he's going to get that opportunity. He left Georgia because Georgia was such a team-first defense, very play the run first, we're not going to be aggressive, we're going to be sound, and he didn't give him the opportunity to collect a lot of numbers. He goes to Florida State, plays in a scheme that gave him more opportunities, but still took a good amount away from him and still put up enough numbers to be the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. He led all Power 5 linemen, defensive linemen with 70 tackles this past season. He was 7th in the nation with 12 sacks, had 18 tackles for loss, led the ACC in that number. I don't know what more people are missing with this guy. I don't know how anyone could look at Jermaine Johnson, look at his film, look at his measurables, look at his athleticism, look at his tenacity, and anything about the dude and question him. I honest to God cannot explain how anyone would not be absolutely over the moon with this selection and incredibly excited for his future in New York. Like I said at the beginning, the Jets have been absolutely starving for a true threat off the edge for decades at this point. It has been far too long since they have had any amount of fear in their pass rush or anyone that offensive linemen have to worry about beating or creating bad matchups or anything of the sort. That's over now. That is now a thing of the past. Jermaine Johnson is ready to completely and totally change the tune of the Jets' defensive line, change the tune of the Jets' pass rush, help every aspect of the defense from the run to the pass game. Regardless of what you want him to do, he's going to be able to do it. I think he's getting ready to completely take flight in New York.